Well, I'm sitting with Massillon Mayor Kathy Catazaro-Perry and finishing up your 12th year as Mayor of Massillon. Hard to believe it's been 12 years,
I
right?
know it's been 12 years.
My gosh. So let's talk a little bit about that tenure, what the things that you've accomplished, and if you ever expected it to last this long.
It has been just a joy to serve our community. We've started out with $416.79 and $2.6 million of unpaid bills when I entered. So that was really a tough time for Maslin, and to come in as the new mayor was also a tough time. But we had to do a lot of things to turn our city around. I went through fiscal emergency with the state auditor and came out of that, and they told us that one of the quickest cities to come out because we complied with everything they've asked us to do. But that was a hard time for Maslin.
And it was hard at the start too, but I think throughout the years, you've also faced quite a few challenges. Talk about some of those things.
Well, being a nurse, one difficult challenge was our hospital closing.
Yeah.
Very difficult because my husband's a physician, I'm a nurse. We know how important it is to have a medical care right away. And that's all I kept thinking. And I had to decide at the spur of a moment if the hospital was going to be owned by the city. And we took that challenge on.
And as you've progressed through these years, what would you say has been the most difficult thing? Would that have been it, do you think? Or was there something else that sticks out in your mind?
I would say COVID was very difficult. Having to keep people working and everybody feeling so unsafe was very difficult, and trying to keep the calm with everyone. The hospital, and then starting out with very little money.
When you went into it all those many years ago, is it different than what you thought it was going to be?
It is different. It's every day you just focus on the residents, and that's what we started from the very beginning: is how can we best serve our residents with no money? How can we continue to keep services going? All of those things. I knew it was bad because I had been finance chair a few years prior before I became the mayor. And I knew it was bad, but there were left bills on the desks of department directors. So when you added it all up, it was really bad. So it that was very hard and very different to have to go through. Um, then the hospital came, and some of the hardest things for me, I'm going to tell you, is having to go to calling hours and funerals for community members. That, even being a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
I know about life and death. I know, I've seen people die, held their hands while they die, but having family members of our community pass away, one sticks out: Phil Roberson, Donnie Peters, Mylan Chauvin, those people. I mean, it really hits home. Nancy Halder was a great
Yeah.
representative. And I go to all those. I want to go and I want to support the family. And so that probably is the hardest part of my job, is attending calling hours and funerals.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, Maslin has such a rich history. Um, I kind of liken it to the radio station, big, rich history. Sometimes I feel that weight on my shoulders, because I've been here a long time. I would imagine that's that way for you. It's, the
It is.
holding that rich history in your hands.
And you want to continue it, and you don't want to let anybody down. And
Hmm.
so we've worked very hard, our staff. I give them all the credit. I'm the mayor, yes, but they are doing all the work. And, having people buy into your vision and where you want to take the city is important. And we have directors that have done that, and then they've been able to lead their staffs, to where we want to go. So it's really been a blessing to be the mayor.
So you mentioned vision. Let's talk about your vision. What kind of things do you see for the future?
So right now we're working on a splash park. We have all the money acquired that we need to acquire, and it's in front of council. So that will get voted on very soon, and that will be built in the spring, and that will be free to our families. So it's really exciting for me to be able to provide that. And then Freshmark gave us a donation of $107,000, and we started an ice skating rink in Wampler Park. And so that's also free to our families. The skates, but they were so generous, Freshmark and Mr. Genshaft, so generous to our community. And that's that public-private partnership that you see and people talk about. But he's blessed our community so much. And it was a huge hit last December.
Yeah, and you did the amphitheater. That was something new too, right?
The amphitheater, a lot of that was paid for by Stark Community Foundation. We went to the Capitol campaign and presented there. We also received, Kirk Schuring was just a champion, Thomas West, Scott Olslager, 2 Capitol budgets. We received dollars from there for our amphitheater. And that cost our city maybe $300,000. So that was a huge benefit to our city, having our representatives really bringing money back to Massillon.
What do you see as your greatest challenge coming up in the future?
Well, one of the things that I want to talk about is our police department. So we had quite a few officers retire, upper staff retire at the very close to the same time. So then we had, some people didn't want to be police officers anymore, so they just decided to change their career. And some transferred. We have never allowed lateral transfers, but with everything nationwide that's going on with being a police officer, we started receiving lateral transfers as well as many other departments have done that. Mm-hmm. So our big challenge really was this year, and we have our staffing back up to the level, and we want to even grow it even further. But we have our first goal for our chief was to place officers back in the service because we were lacking quite a few. We've hired 23 officers in 2 years' time. That's like almost half of our force. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge hurdle. The chief and the assistant chief and our safety and service director, they all worked together through the interviewing process. We streamlined that, and we're hiring within 3 months now of when they take a test and pass it. Everything is done, that's a monumental task to hire in 3 months, because you have to do a lot of background. You have to do interviewing process. Sometimes, we pay for them to go to school. So then you add on 4 more months. So we've done a lot to really bring in our police officers. But I have to say, our detective bureau has 2 officers. It will now have 3 officers and very soon to have 4, and then 5 by June. So having all those retirements was very difficult. And that was our vision these past 2 years, is really to get those numbers up.
I know that other departments, and Canton is one of them, they've had the problem of paying the officers. You have to reach the amount of pay that others are giving them. Have you had any problems with that as well?
Well, in our last contract, we negotiated a higher salary for entry level because we wanted to attract officers to Massillon. We're the second highest in the county for entry level. This next contract will probably go back to the seniors to elevate their level as well. And we're shrinking. Used to be 30 years, Pam, it took to get to your highest level. By January, I think we'll be at year 7. They'll be at their highest level. So those things are important. And we've been able to do all those things, plus provide them the state-of-the-art equipment, because we want to keep our community safe and our officers safe. It's a dual vision there, is we've got to keep everybody safe. And so they have great equipment and a new records management system that we're connected with Stark County and with Jackson Township, which means when there's an arrest or a chase or something going on, everybody knows they're connected. And that's really makes it viable for our officers to get the prisoners that we need to arrest quicker than not having that communication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there are chases throughout the county that do happen.
So if you had to say one thing to people who are watching right now, tell them why they should maintain you as their mayor.
Well, I only have one agenda to be the mayor, and that is to serve our residents. Being a nurse, I've nurtured this community. really put my arms around them to take care of them in the best way that I can. And you've seen my leadership, you've seen my vision with the downtown, the amphitheater, handicapped accessible restrooms. We have a handicap accessible playground, the skate park, now the splash park that's going to be named in honor of Jake Roberson. There's just so many things that we've been able to accomplish, even with adversity at the very beginning. And we put 91 buildings on our National Register of Historic Places to invite developers to come into downtown. And that's phase 3 that's going to happen. We're going to have apartment living. We have some right now, but we're really going to have apartment living in our downtown, which is going to make it flourish. We've got all kinds of new businesses on the northeast side coming in. We've got our industrial park with Dave DePietro, and Garrett that we're working on bringing in manufacturing jobs. So Massillon is on the upswing, and we want to keep that momentum going for our community and just really want to take care of our residents. That's why I'd like to be the mayor another 4 years.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks, Pam.